Ariel Helwani post-fight at UFC on Fuel TV alongside UFC President Dana White. And Dana, congratulations on a huge event. Let's talk about what everyone is talking about online. Why wasn't this main event a 5-round fight?
Because we blew it. It should have been a 5-round fight. You know, as I was sitting here again tonight, I'm looking at the fight going, yeah, this should have been 5 rounds. I think that when Diego and Ellenberger went back in there for that 4th round, the place would have went crazy. People were ready for it at home. And, you know, I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but we blew it. We should have done it. So
you wanted it to be a 5-round fight, but there was another reason why it wasn't.
Yeah. They will be 5-round fights from now on. You know, everybody's asking, is it because of fuel? Fuel would let us do 33-round fights if we wanted to. Yeah, there'll be 5 rounds from here on out.
Every main event from this point forward.
Other than contracts that have already been signed.
Right. Now, do you think that Diego would have been able to turn it around had we gone into the championship rounds?
Big question. Who knows?
Based on what he was doing in the 3rd, it looked like he was certainly doing it. But what have you thought of Jake Ellenberger? You know, when he came into the UFC, a lot of people didn't know much about him. He surprised a lot of us with what he did against Carlos Condit. Have you been surprised at how dominant he's looked as of late?
Yeah, he's looked fantastic. He's on a roll. At the press conference, Diego Sanchez just said, this is the toughest dude I've ever fought. He said, I hit this guy with some big shots. He wouldn't go away. And, you know, those two both showed a lot of respect for each other in the press conference. But for Jake Ellenberger, seriously, beating Diego Sanchez is a big deal. Diego Sanchez is like fighting a zombie. The guy's never been finished, never been knocked out, never been submitted. He keeps coming forward. He will not stop. You hit him with your best shots. And you know, this was a big fight for Jake.
Yeah, and I know you don't like to talk about this stuff immediately after a fight, but what's your gut telling you right now about Jake? What to do with him next?
Yeah, I think that if I'm Carlos Condit and the Diaz match is available, I take the Diaz match. If not, I probably sit around and I wait for GSP. It makes all the sense in the world. He just came off a split decision against Ellenberger. He knows if he beats GSP, he's going to end up facing Ellenberger again. But we also have the, you know, on the May 5th card on Fox, we have Koscheck fighting Hendricks. So we'll see what happens.
But considering the fact that Carlos Condit, you know, he fought in February. Prior to that, he fought in July. Now he's going to wait maybe 10 months to fight again. Does he want to wait?
He didn't want to wait if he could have fought Diaz. Yeah.
But if he wants to fight Jake Ellenberger, he's not all that interested.
I have no idea. Right. We'll see what happens. Again, tonight's the night of the fight. Carlos Condit's sitting home tonight. In 3 months, he might have a different opinion. He might say, you know what, let's do this.
Do you have an update on GSP?
Same as I've had. You know, he's a professional. This guy works hard. He's doing all the right things to, you know, to get his knee ready. But there's only so much you can do. He is human.
And on the flip side, Diego Sanchez, while he did look good in the 3rd round, there are still some people who believe he is better at 155. What do you think?
He just said at the press conference also that he doesn't know where he wants to be. He's considering going back to 55. He's only had 1 loss there, and we'll see what Diego comes up with.
Where would you rather him fight?
You know what? The kid's a stud. He brings it every time he comes to fight. Tell me the last Diego Sanchez fight that sucked. You know what I mean? The kid wants to fight at 55, 45, 25. He can fight wherever he wants to. Again, professional who shows up on weight, always does the right thing. I love Diego Sanchez.
What do you think of his entrance?
Typical Diego Sanchez. He's out of his tree. You know what I mean? I don't know if he thought he was, if he thought Jake was a vampire or what was going on, but you know, typical Diego.
And let's finally talk in terms of the main event, that crowd. You know, it wasn't the biggest crowd, but certainly one of the loudest we've seen in a long time. What do you think of the Nebraska crowd?
They're incredible. It's awesome here. I love this place. 7,000 people, and they sounded like, you know, 17,000 people. It was awesome.
All right, in the co-main event, Stefan Struve looked good. He rebounded from a tough 1st round. Let's talk about Dave Herman. A lot of people think that if he doesn't, you know, start taking his career seriously, he'll never live up to his potential. Do you agree?
100%. You know, the thing is that I like him. I like Dave Herman. The stuff that he pulled this week, I can't stand that stuff. Listen, if you want to get noticed for your fighting skills, not for coming in like a gorilla or wearing pink scarves and coming into Macho Man and all that stuff. As I was sitting there in the arena, I'm like, did I seriously let him come into this song? I mean, seriously. It's just, you know, nothing against the Village people, but whatever. I don't know. I'm not into it, man. I honestly... It bothers me, and I don't like it.
How far do you think Stefan can go, considering how tall he is, that reach? Very tough to deal with as a heavyweight.
Absolutely. He's a really young guy. He's still getting a lot of experience. People don't realize this guy's like 23 years old. Right. So you know, there's never a big deal made about his age like it is with John Jones. But we'll see what happens. I like him.
Who do you think won the Aaron Simpson-Ronnie Marks fight? Somewhat controversial.
You know what I tell these guys? Don't ever be the blur, man. Don't be the blur in the show. And those two were the blur.
And didn't like the fight.
I won't be rewatching that fight again and over and over again.
Right, and final thing on how it all relates to the welterweight division. Of course, it's somewhat of a sort of uncompleted story. The Nick Diaz situation, it unfolded last week. What is the latest on him, and when do you think we'll find out how long he'll be suspended by the commission?
Who knows? I mean, who knows? Let me put it to you this way. They're very consistent at being inconsistent. So Floyd Mayweather is allowed to, you know, first of all, not only by the Nevada State Athletic Commission, but by the judge, is allowed to not go to jail until his fight is over. Right? Chael Sonnen, who had paid all his dues and everything were behind him, was not allowed to coach the Ultimate Fighter. Recently, a boxer tests positive for marijuana. He's suspended for a year, and they take 40% of his purse. Floyd Mayweather walks into the Nevada State Athletic Commission, and they literally kiss his ass.
Double standard?
Double standard, bias, whatever you want to call it. There's one thing that's consistent. They are inconsistent as hell. It's one of the most insane things that I've ever seen in my life. You know, and the response would be, this guy brings a lot of money to the city of Las Vegas. So do we. So do we.
And considering the fact that he has that prescription to smoke medical marijuana in California, do you think he has a case here?
Who knows? I mean, as far as I know, marijuana is illegal, right? But here's what I do know. The Nevada State Athletic Commission does not allow you to smoke marijuana. You cannot have traces of marijuana in your system. It's pretty simple. There's a list of drugs that you can and can't do, and marijuana is one of the can't do's. You know what I mean? Whether you got a medical card or you know, a doctor shows up and says, I allow him to smoke weed. I don't care. We don't. The Nevada State Athletic Commission does not allow you to smoke weed.
Did Nick or his manager, Cesar Gracie, tell you when was the last time he did smoke prior to the fight?
No. I mean, going into this fight, I had a talk with Nick. We sat down. I told him, and you guys have heard this a million times. I'm like, Nick, listen, play the game this much. That's all I need you to do. And playing the game that much means don't smoke marijuana anytime around any of your fights. Don't do anything illegal. You know, show up to some press conferences. I mean, I've been very lenient with Nick Diaz. You know, we invested a lot of money in him. He came off looking incredible after that series. People who didn't like him then liked him. You know, it's just one of those things. It's very frustrating.
Okay, final thing on Nick. Do you think we will ever see him back? Because at the end of that fight, he did retire.
Yeah, I doubt he retired. I mean, we'll see what happens. Nobody's called me and said he wants to retire. This is what he does. He's a fighter. Whether he likes it or doesn't like it, you know, the whole love and hate thing. I mean, there's a picture of him in the thing. He's got to be in 3rd grade, and he's going like this. Nick Diaz was born to fight. You know, this is what he does. This is how he makes a living. He's an incredible athlete. He does triathlons and all these other things, but nobody's making big money, you know, run, bike, swim.
Let's look ahead. UFC 144, the UFC returns to Japan for the first time in a very long time next weekend. How important is this show for you and for the company to return to that market, which was once so great?
It's very important. You know, we want to go back there. Do I have any, you know, aspirations that we're going back there and doing 100,000 people? No. There's a hardcore fan base there that loves the UFC, and we're going in there and we're going to put on a UFC event. Whether we do 7,000 seats here or 56,000 seats in Toronto, no matter where we are, there's no denying that we put on one of the best live shows in all of sports. And we're going to go there. We're going to put on the UFC show. People are like, you're going to play the Pride music? No, we're not doing anything Pride. Everything you see on TV is what you're going to see on the event in Japan. And people will leave that event, and it will spread, and just like everywhere else we go.
All right, final question. And
you said that last time.
No, I didn't say. Okay. I said we're looking ahead. And
okay.
Are you trying to leave? Do you have somewhere to go?
I was just making sure you knew that you said that last time, though. This is the final question.
Okay, well, I apologize for that. Right. Final question.
Cool.
The fans online are talking about Tim Sylvia. He put out a video on the UG and said that he wants to be back and he thinks he's a lot better than a lot of the heavyweights in the UFC. Not sure if you saw it, but I'm just wondering if you have a response, because a lot of people are wondering what you think about Tim Sylvia potentially returning to the UFC.
I have no beef with Tim Sylvia whatsoever. I have nothing against the guy, but I say it all the time, and you've heard me say it, and everybody's heard me say it. You know, that was when the division was its weakest. You know, when he was the champion, and for him to make a statement like he could come back and beat 80% of the fighters in the UFC, I don't know what Tim Sylvia has been doing. I'm the last guy you should ask this question to. I don't know what he's done. The last time I saw him, he got knocked out by like a 50-year-old boxer in like 10 seconds. And didn't Fedor knock him out in like?
Well, Fedor choked him out. Then he was knocked out, but since then he's actually won 6 of 7. And I don't work for him, by the way.
Who'd he beat?
No one to really write home about, but he did win 6 of 7.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, you know, the guy's just out there trying to get back in the UFC. He's trying to make a living. I get it. But, you know, he fought in the UFC when the UFC heavyweight division was its weakest. I mean, him and Arlovsky were knocking each other out every weekend. It is what it is. I'm very open and honest about that part of our life. And, you know, that's really all I got to say.
All right, I'll leave it at that. No more questions, by the way. The UFC returns to action, by the way. UFC 144 next Saturday night, live from Saitama Super Arena in Saitama, Japan. Thank you so much for the time, Dana.
Thank you.
Tuesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific, only on Fuel TV.